Folge Ben Birchall und Tom Birchall mit der Startnummer 16 auf der 6. Position. Tim Reeves und Mark Wilkins mit der 77 ist Siebenfeld und auf der 8. Position haben wir Vater und Sohn, Ted und Vincent Peugeot. Das sind die Besten aus der IM, die wir hier haben, auf der 8. Position. Pekka Pevelinka und Ilse de Haas, einmal Finnland, einmal Niederlande, auf der 9. Position. Das ist das Team mit der Startnummer 44. Daneben steht das Team mit der Startnummer 42, die zweitplatzierte innerhalb der IM. Das ist Lennart Kendrich und Uwe Neufert, auch in einer sehr guten Zeit hier draußen gewesen.
Welcome to the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben. Welcome to the Bonovo Action Sidecar Festival weekend, an event entirely dedicated to the great and good of sidecar past and present, where the headliner is none other than the penultimate round of the FIM Sidecar World Championship. An incredibly close battle that has been fought through injury and a little bit of drama so far this season. It's Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement who are your championship leaders. You see them there on the front row of the grid in P2. That's because we have the Kershaw Charlwood Quattro plant-backed machine, the Kershaw Racing entry, on pole position. Of course, the primary title contenders to Ellis and Clement, the defending FIM Sidecar World Champions, are the Birchall brothers, Ben and Tom Birchall, and I'm glad to say that the Birchall outfit is whole once again after Callum Crowe stepped in and performed absolutely fabulously last time out at the TT Circuit Assen. It is Tom Birchall back again on the passenger side of the number 16. They are starting from the third row of the grid. Tom still nursing a shoulder injury after their scary accident in the beginning of August at the Red Bull Ring, but it's great to see them back, and they're still just 9 points away in the championship as well. They could well be a factor for the podiums. We've seen them scythe their way up through the order many a time. But all pressure, I think, will be on Ellis and Clement here. They have had a good season so far. They've had plenty of victories so far, but they know that a single foot wrong against a team as resolutely consistent as Ellis and Clement will be a fatal blow potentially in the championship. Penultimate round of this series, the season finale taking place in Estoril in 3 weeks' time. It is also the season finale weekend for the IDM German Sidecar Meisterschaft. And as a matter of fact, we could see that decided here in this race. The Peugeot family, Ted and Vincent Peugeot, fresh off of winning the French championship, they could secure the German championship in today's race. Here's the grid then. It is a great starting position for Kershaw and Charlwood. Stephen Kershaw and Roland Charlwood on pole position alongside Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement. Sam and Tom Christie in third alongside Harrison Payne and Kevin Rousseau for Steinhausen Racing. Benny Stroyer and Kevin Kolsch on row 3 alongside Ben and Tom Birchall, who'll be looking to make some headway. Tim Reeves and Mark Wilkes on row 4 alongside Ted and Vincent Peugeot, newly minted French champions. Pekka Pavarinta alongside Ilse de Haas on the 9th place alongside Leonard Göttlich and Owen Neubert on row 5. Rupert Archer and Adam Christie on row 6 with John Holden and Ferry Seger. 13th and 14th places Peter Kemsvinger and Andrzej Sedlacek in 13th alongside Max Zimmerman and Ronja Mal 14th. Row 8 of the grid is Eero Palm and Lauri Lipstock alongside Marcus Schwegler and Andrzej Kopeski. Row 9 of the grid, Kevin Cable and Charlie Richardson on the familiar 111 outfit, Claude Vinet and Valentin Pirat 18th place, and a couple of teams that are joining us, Pierre Lugin and Christophe Duras on the 25, joined by, for the first time this year, I believe, the 61 of Roger Vickers and Remco Moos. So 20 set to take the start. It's a brilliant, strong grid of machines already coming through the final couple of corners on this formation lap. So we have just a few seconds to wait until the penultimate round of the season begins. We've got 4 races left to go, 100 points left to score, and there's just 9 between the top 2. It's very close in third in the championship as well. 125 for your pole sitter outfit, Kershaw and Charlwood. Both the 45, Payne and Rousseau, and the Christies, so the second row of the grid, both of them are on 124 points. So the top 5 with 2 very interesting battles. It is, in all but mathematical terms, now between Illis and Clement and the Birchalls for the win of the 2023 FIM Sidecar World Championship. Will we see a significant twist in one team's favour coming into today's race? Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood are on pole position for this one. The red lights are out and they are underway for the first time of 2 races this weekend. The short super sprint race begins now, and it's a scintillating start for Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood. Kershaw and Charlwood lead into the first corner pretty quick, and with a bump in the middle, that first couple of corners can really be a tough sequence. There is a nasty bump between turns 1 and 2, but it doesn't affect anyone on the first lap. Side by side further in the pack, I think that may have been Tim Reeves muscling someone out there. It was certainly one of the Bonovo Action machines, and of course all of the Bonovo Action backed machines and outfits will be looking to impress here at the Bonovo Action Sidecar Festival. Clue is in the title. Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood with the early lead on the 29 Kershaw Racing entry. Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood have had some brilliant scraps so far this season. They were involved in a humdinger at the Red Bull Ring. Thus far this season, they have missed out on victory. They've taken a pair of second places, but a win has eluded them so far, and outside of a miscellaneous DNF at Sachsenring at the very start of the year, the 29 crew have been immensely consistent as well. Can they get a victory in this one? Well, they've got Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement just behind, and that is no mean feat to keep those 2 at bay. Already the top 2 clearly breaking away from Sam and Tom Christie in third place and the chasing pack, and look who's up to 4th place. It's the Birchalls. Ben and Tom already from 6th on the grid up into 4th place. It's side by side for 5th position. That's Tim Reeves getting through into 5th place there. Past Stroyer and Kolsch goes the number 77. The Bonovo Action 77 then into 5th place. Tim Reeves making a good start. Payne and Rousseau down to 7th. Not the start that they would have wanted. But for Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood, that first lap was about as good as it could possibly get. Everyone has crossed the line to complete that first lap, so no retirements or hit callers on the first lap. Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau have some work to do then from 7th position. Of course, Payne and Rousseau have taken a victory this year. They've got that off the bucket list, as it were, a World Championship victory for the team that wears the Manx symbol on their side. But we've got a hand up. We've got a few hands up around the circuit, and I believe we might have a pause in the action here. We do. Red flag has been put out there. Now everybody got through sector 2. Didn't see anything on the live pictures to indicate the red flag, albeit I was rubbernecking between screens, but we do see an ambulance out there on circuit. May well have been an incident there. Certainly, it seems that most of the front runners are present and correct. Everyone going into the pit lane. The top 10 have all come through into the pits, so I think there may have been an incident towards the rear of the order. We weren't following the tail end of the pack at the time, but a red flag, obviously a cause for concern, and a justified pause in proceedings here. We get a replay then of the start of the race, and it was a flying start from Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood. Ellis and Clement, well known is Todd Ellis for his late-breaking exploits. I thought that if he got a good start, he might be able to bully himself into the lead through the first couple of corners, but that did not come to pass. We are indeed missing two outfits that have not come into pit lane. And as we have seen, there are medical cars on the circuit. So obviously, with respect to the parties concerned, we will not speculate in any formal way and just hope that this race can be resumed shortly. We were just on to the second lap of the race. Now, previously, the race has been effectively completely reset. If we've had a pause early on in proceedings, that's what we had at the Red Bull Ring when the Birchells had their unfortunate incident. And so I would expect that if and when racing resumes, it will resume completely with a new running of the same race rather than taking that first lap into account, which would mean for the likes of Ben and Tom Birchall, they would have to do that work again from 6th on the grid. There are plenty of opportunities to maybe make moves around this circuit, and the Birchells have already shown on one occasion today that they are quite capable of moving up through the order. So then the red flags are out here at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben. This is the penultimate round of the FIM Sidecar World Championship, and we alluded to it in brief before the race got underway. It's also the season finale for the IDM Championship, the German Sidecar Championship. So that is a very important matter for those competing there. Unfortunately, Sattler and Schmidt, who were at one point the runaway winners or the runaway leaders of the championship for Bonovo Action, haven't been present since the Red Bull Ring, and that has rather handed control of the championship to Ted and Vincent Peugeot, the 74 racing team as they are, unsurprisingly on the 74 LCR Yamaha. 152.5 points at this stage, and they are some 23.5 points clear of their closest competition, the 42 outfit of Goettlich and Neubert. So it's going to take a mighty effort from Lennard Goettlich and Uwe Neubert, with 50 points available this weekend and a 24-point deficit, well, 23.5-point deficit. Ted and Vincent Peugeot really just need to make finishes this weekend, and they will become the German sidecar champions. And we've had some seriously big names winning the IDM championship before. Tim Reeves relatively recently won the IDM sidecar championship. And yes, Ted and Vincent Peugeot, who took the French championship just last weekend, could add yet another national title to their resume. The father-son duo. Good to see fans in abundance here for this all sidecar weekend. The Bonovo Action business laying on this event, the Bonovo Action Sidecar Festival. Of course, Bonovo through sidecar, through superbike racing as well, with a significant investment in all things motorcycle racing. And there are a number of Bonovo Action-backed outfits up and down the grid in this paddock in the Sidecar World Championship. Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement, who were running second there from second on the grid. They were about 0.4 of a second back from Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood in qualifying. Of course, qualifying contested over 2 sessions, one on Friday, one on Saturday here in the FIM Sidecar World Championship. And it was the Friday session where a majority of the fast times were laid down. Kershaw and Charlwood with the only outfit to make it into the 131s, a 131.764. Ellis and Clement with a 132.117. But nonetheless, top 3 rows of the grid, the first 6 competitors were all within a second. And in fact, within the 132s, everyone back to 7th place within the 132, 131 bracket. And so that points to what should be a competitive race. There's the 61 of Roger Vickers and Remco Moos. Content Junkies backed number 61. Of course, you see there Avon rubber on a majority of these machines, but I believe Avon soon pulling out of producing sidecar rubber, and the likes of the Reeves Wilkes outfit and the brothers Birchall called into action to test out some new sidecar rubber on the Isle of Man TT course a couple of months ago for the Classic TT weekend. I think that took place. And so I'm sure in the World Championship as well we will see a shift over, and that could create some dramas. That could create some shifting in the landscape. Whenever you move to a new tyre, it comes with new properties. There's not really an exact way to reverse engineer racing rubber, and so every time you have a change of tyre supplier in a motorsport category, it comes with inherent challenges. And I'm sure that the experienced outfits, the Tim Reeves and Birchall brothers of the world, who've seen it all before and done it several times, will be perhaps at an advantage in the early stages of the 2024 season. Well, you see there that some of the medical vehicles that were dispatched onto the circuit are now heading back towards Medical Centre, and hopefully that is a positive sign. Hopefully the competitors involved in that incident were okay. Of course, confirmation of that will come in due course, probably long after today's broadcast has concluded. But we only hope we can bring positive news. Of course, with positive news as well will come a resumption of the race. Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, 3.7 kilometres in length, 14 corners packed into this circuit, and a few of the corners are rather more cambered than one would suspect. Turn 3, certainly, Schlossgold Bend. I think you may even see, if someone's feeling particularly spirited, a move around the outside at Schlossgold. There is a lot of camber there. It's been likened to me by some colleagues as a short oval corner almost on track walks. Just see the exit of turn 3 there, and then of course there's turn 7 as well. At the end of the triple sequence, the 3 apexes of 4, 5 and 6, you have the long right hand turn 7, and that is also quite well cambered. Turn 2, I would say, is arguably one of the biggest challenges on the entire lap at Hotel, turn 2, so named as the Arena Oschersleben Hotel is just beyond the catch fencing. That is Also quite the challenge, particularly on entry, because as I alluded to on the first lap, there is quite a bump between turns 1 and 2. And you carry a lot more speed through the first corner than you do the second. So you've got to slow down kind of through turn 1 almost. Over that bump, you have to make sure you keep it on the straight and narrow. Very easy to overcook and get it wrong between turn 1 and turn 2. So we see there a couple of the outfits that were concerned in that accident. We're still unsure of any information in regard to the riders and passengers. Hopefully there's a positive outcome and we can go racing again, but all things remain a tinge uncertain at this juncture. 2 outfits involved, and since we didn't see the accident happen on the live pictures, I think it best to keep that close to chest for the time being, but hopefully we can report positively before the end of the day, before the end of the weekend. But for now, we just await news for the parties concerned. An exciting few weeks here at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, the Bonovo Action Sidecar Festival ongoing, and you can see there that marshals have been tasked with putting position markers down, which is, if anything, a positive sign. There's at least intent to go racing again should we get the all clear. But the Bonovo Action Sidecar Festival ongoing. And just a couple of weeks ago, for the first time ever, the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben played host to the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series. The Euro NASCAR categories visiting Germany for the first time since 2019, visiting Oschersleben for the first time ever. So for the local motorsport contingent here in Germany, here at Oschersleben, it's been quite the spoil of riches in terms of international motor racing. And of course, the Oschersleben circuit has consistently been a factor on major championship calendars since it was built at the end of 1996. Has hosted DTM, has hosted World Championships on both 2 and 4 wheels. Has become a staple of the IDM calendar, of course. The IDM organization, the party behind Superbike racing on the national stage in Germany, taking over promotion of the FIM Sidecar World Championship for 2023. And this first season under that tenureship has certainly been a success. Good entries, some great new venues, in addition to returning favourites added to the calendar. It's one of the crown jewels of this season was the 24-hour Spa support race on the bill for the FIM Endurance World Championship, which only recently returned to Spa after the most recent bout of upgrades and improvements. Getting word now that all involved in the incident have now been taken to the medical centre, and we will get a restart time as soon as all ambulances are back in their position. So as soon as all of the medical personnel and the medical vehicles are back in position, a time will be published to inform when racing will resume. Which is certainly great news for the fans here this weekend. I'm sure many here to see the World Championship and indeed the conclusion of the IDM sidecars. So the outfits and their crews awaiting word as to when they head back out there on the track. And it will be a full refresh of the race, per my understanding. They won't count that first lap in the record books. So those who fell through the order, like Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau, for example, they'll be delighted because they get to resume the second row starting position that they had. For Ben and Tom Birchall, they kind of have to have a bit of a Groundhog Day scenario and do it all again. From 6th on the grid, they were already challenging for 3rd place at the time of the red flag. So again, it shouldn't be too long until we get this race back underway. And one thing I do notice is the cloud cover overhead. Not the warmest weekend at Oschersleben, but there again, it is October. And some of those clouds overhead do look a bit dark, don't they? You see there the two outfits that were involved in that incident. It was, as you can now see the machines, I may as well tell you, it was the 33, Max Zimmerman, Ronja Mal, and the number 10, John Holden and Ferry Sager, that were involved in that incident. Understand all parties now at the medical centre. So we will be missing a couple of starters from the resumption of this race. We await news as to when that will happen. As soon as I have information for you confirming a restart, I will pass it along. But as of now, no time is confirmed. As you can see, everyone trying to keep themselves loosened up, all in conversation as well. And I'm sure that there are plenty of friendly groups within this paddock here in the FIM Sidecar World Championship. We saw just parked in front of the 61, the 29 of Kershaw and Charlwood, which was, of course, not just our pole sitter, but also our early race leader. And based on their form in qualifying, Kershaw and Charlwood, I think with good cause to be optimistic heading into this race. They've certainly had some good form on their hands so far this year. They're 3rd in the championship for a reason. However, they are yet to clinch a victory this year. They came second in the second race, the longer of the two races, at Sachsenring. It was a mixed start to their season, though, because in the Superside Sprint, the Saturday race at Sachsenring, it was unfortunately a non-finish. The only non-finish of their season so far. First podium came the following round at Spa. And another second place came at the Red Bull Ring for the Kershaws. A race that they very nearly won, of course. It was a real scrap between themselves and the Ellis and Clement entry on the final lap at the Red Bull Ring in the restarted race 2. And since that race that was won by Ellis and Clement at the final corner, they have been unbeaten. It's 3 victories in a row at this stage for Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement, which has surged them into the championship lead. Of course, Ben and Tom Birchall dropping all of their points from the second race at Red Bull Ring. They sadly weren't able to take the restart after their collision with Tim Reeves and Mark Wilkes. That was something of a pendulum point in the season. Coming out of Saturday at the Red Bull Ring, it started to feel like maybe the Wickham Blackwell by Birchall crew were building a lead, not an unassailable one at that juncture, but one that would allow them to just net podiums, net finishes, and manage a championship run. However, now, after dropping those points at the Red Bull Ring, after the injury to Tom Birchall, is now fighting from underneath that the Birchalls have to do. 9 points back at this stage. I know that Tom Birchall is not yet 100% after his shoulder injury. But I also know that he's been working very hard to get himself back up to as fit of a condition as he can be. And just 8 weeks or so removed, he's back on the 16. They've done some test running together already before coming out here to Oschersleben, and Tom seems confident that he's almost knocking on that door of full fitness again, which is very, very impressive and speaks to his bravery and tenacity as a passenger. You have to be brave and tenacious as a passenger, and those are some of the friendlier adjectives you can give a sidecar passenger. I don't think I've got the hand-eye coordination personally for either position, but I think I'd take the one that doesn't involve launching myself corner to corner if I were to partake. These are some of the bravest and most brilliant competitors, I think, that don leathers anywhere on 2 wheels or 3. I think particularly at circuits like the Autodrome Most, where it's all switchbacks, it's all left to right to left to right. I think passengers in particular, really show their mettle. It's only a 2.5-mile circuit with 21 corners packed in. The majority of them are left to right to left to right, and that must be a real hit on your core across the race distance. There is no such thing as an easy weekend, I don't think, on a sidecar. Of course, it is approaching 5:20 local time here. So the question of light will eventually come into play. This is the last race on the programme for today, so there is nothing following the FIM Sidecar World Championship on Saturday, but the noise curfews obviously exist at every circuit you go to, and There's also just the matter of fact that we don't have headlights on these things. And hopefully we don't have to worry too much and get this race underway quickly. I believe we're expecting next update from Race Direction in about 5 minutes' time. So we should have a picture of some sort as to whether we get this race back underway in the next few minutes. You see there the heavy BWT branding on the start-finish gantry, or the pedestrian bridge over the main straight here at Oschersleben. And BWT, a heavy backer of motorsport in Germany, particularly of the four-wheeled ilk. Big part of the ADAC GT Masters package. I believe now also the DTM as well, now that those two championships are syncopated. Certainly the German motorcycle racing scene, one of the best national scenes in Europe for my money, still going to the likes of Schleitz, for example, with the IDM Superbikes, also around with the IDM sidecars there as well. The famous Schleizer Dreieck circuit, former host of the FIM Sidecar World Championship as well. That particular facility was a rather longer road circuit in years gone by than it is today, but a really special facility to go bike racing at, and have seen some real humdinging battles between the great and the good of the IDM Superbikes over the years. Some helmets starting to go on, maybe. I think news is being given in the pit lane. Hopefully we'll get some information before too long. You see there Ted Peugeot, the younger of the Peugeots, stood by his number 74. I think yes, Vincent stood across from him, sporting the more aerodynamic haircut. They've had a really good season, a really strong season. Every time we've seen them in the World Championship this year, they've been well into the top 10, sometimes knocking on the door of the top 5. Quattro Plant guys have their helmets back on. It looks like they're anticipating a restart. The Kershaw Racing duo of the eponymous Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood. Certainly looks as though those in the pits are expecting a restart. We still haven't, to the best of my knowledge, had an update yet definitively confirming a restart, but we will give you an update on proceedings as soon as we have it. Of course, one of the key storylines coming into today's race was that battle for third in the championship. in the World Sidecar order, with the Kershaw duo on 125 points and the number 45 Steinhausen entry just 1 point back on 124. Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau. Any result in this race and the subsequent races of the season are critical. Of course, also 124 points is Sam and Tom Christie. So third, fourth and fifth all split by just 1 point in the championship standings right now. So a good or bad weekend will make or break championship campaigns. Everyone wants to be in the top three. We have a pretty good idea of who first and second will be, albeit in not in which order. That's still up for debate, but that all-important third in the championship is very hotly contested. And of course, Ryan Kershaw and Charlwood are very much in consideration. I mean, Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood, still very much in consideration. They're third in the championship, and if they do manage to capitalise on this pole position that they have today, should the race resume, then that will give them a huge leg up, especially if the Christies and Payne and Rousseau struggle. And of course we saw Payne and Rousseau dropping down to 7th place at the beginning of this race before the red flag. So that maybe suggests that they don't have it all hooked up, at least in the early stages, but I'm sure they'll have had the opportunity to maybe adjust some tyre pressures or something like that if there is a minor setup issue down at the Steinhausen Racing Camp. And no confirmed time yet, but we've just got a bulletin that suggests that there'll be a restart once the medical team is back in situ. So still nothing definitive, but still very much angling towards a restart here. So in theory, with this being a 12-minute race with the laps registering in the low 130s, this race should only take approximately 20 minutes or so. And I think the curfew here is 6:30, if I'm not mistaken. So in theory, we've still got a little bit of time to play with at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben. It might be 6 o'clock, and if that's the case, then we may be in a little bit of a time crunch. Just an update from race control. the bulletin I've been given is that they're waiting for a helicopter to transport the competitors away, but no life-threatening injuries is the good news that we've got there. So there is positivity to be had there, that we know for certain that there are no life-threatening injuries. But we are awaiting a medical helicopter to transport the competitors away that were involved in that red flag collision earlier on, the 33 and 10 outfits respectively. The estimate right now is that 10 minutes after the helicopter, we should be able to continue. So again, we wait with bated breath, and we're sorry that we can't provide more certainty at this juncture. If you're staying with us to hopefully see this race take place, we thank you for doing so. And while we await any information, we will cease fire here in the commentary box. As soon as we get any information in regards to a restart, I will relay that. But for now, we know that there's the intention of restarting this race. We're just not sure as to when. We will remain live here on the Motorrad channel, and hopefully we can give you positive information about a restart before too long. So we bring good news from the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, as we are now definitely going to get a race restart. We are currently expecting the machines to exit the pit lane in 5 minutes' time. So at 1800, we will go back to machines on track. So about 5 minutes before these guys get rolling again. As you can see there, the likes of Kershaw and Charlwood warming up, everybody getting ready to make their way to pit exit. The race distance is unaffected. We're expecting a full 12 laps. I think that does mean, incidentally, that the curfew is 6:30 rather than 6 here at Oschersleben. So that's good news for all parties concerned. You see that the 5-minute board is being presented to the pit lane. Ergo, we will go racing again shortly. The grid will be as advertised at the start of the day. So that means that the likes of Ben and Tom Birch will have to start from 6th position again. They're going to have some work to do. It also means that Harrison Payne and Kevin Rousseau get a bit of a make good after they dropped from 4th to 7th on the first lap of the initial attempt at going racing. Solis and Emmanuel Clement will maybe be looking to make a bid for the lead this time. The quick restart procedure is what we expect, so it'll be a very short and sharp run to the grid to get everybody in order. From there, there'll be a formation lap, and a race will very quickly follow after that. So they want to make sure this race is completed before everyone has to go home for the evening, and we expect a race restart in a little over 3 minutes, or we expect the machines to leave the pit lane in order to get ready for a restart in about 3 minutes' time. So as you can see, plenty of the outfits are eager to get back out there. And no doubt we are in for an exciting race. As you can see, it's certainly a lot darker than it was at the beginning of this broadcast, and I don't think that's as much due to cloud cover as it is purely to light. It is getting to the point of the year where it's not far off dark by the time you approach 7 o'clock or so. Clocks will change soon, of course, to winter time across Europe, and I do think there might be a little bit of reduced visibility before the end of the race. I'm sure that given there's been not many hints of sun this afternoon, I'm sure that everyone is running a clear visor anyway, but anyone who wasn't hopefully has switched. There is one of the key overtaking points on the circuit. That is turns 11 and 12, and you can make a good move there. It's critical and difficult to get that chicane right. Turn 8, 9 and 10, the chicane before the long back straight, and it can trip you up quite badly if you get it wrong. Run a little wide on exit, for example. A bad run out of 10 will leave you vulnerable even maybe before the apex of turn 11. One of the critical overtaking moves here. Also, the odd lunge at turn 3 is to be expected. Schlossgold. I must give a doff of the cap to the fans here at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben. As you can see, it's one of the brilliant things about this circuit, actually, is that all of the viewing terraces are well above ground level, as it were, and that means even though there's not grandstands everywhere, you do get brilliant views just about everywhere. I've walked around this circuit before, both on the tarmac and around the facility. It's a very good place in terms of spectating. There aren't many places you can go on the circuit where you're restricted to just one corner's worth of viewing. But they've stayed in their droves for the FIM Sidecar World Championship, and that is wonderful to see. This is the Bonovo Action Sidecar Festival weekend, so it's very much a weekend for the sidecar faithful. And they're looking to see a German champion crowned, as this race is also, well, these pair of races this weekend are also the last two of the IDM sidecar season. But of course, it's also the penultimate destination on the FIM Sidecar World Championship calendar. They're rolling once again. They'll now head to the grid, find their positions on said grid, and very shortly thereafter, they'll dash around for a formation lap and then go racing. It's been a hearty delay, but thankfully we are going to be restarted. And the crews of the 10 and the 33, we understand, have been taken to medical facilities, and as we heard earlier on from race control, no life-threatening injuries. However, it was by all accounts a serious accident between the 10 crew, John Holden, Ferry Sager and Max Zimmerman and Ronja Mal. And obviously all of our best wishes going out to both crews. Hopefully they will be okay given time. But that does mean that we will be missing a couple of outfits from the grid. Still a strong 18 strong entry. Majority of the field, as has been the case all year long, powered by Yamahas. A bit of a split between the LCR and ARS chassis, but Yamaha's the dominant engine, these 600cc sidecar machines. The one notable outlier in terms of power plant is the Honda machine, that being the Birchalls, Ben and Tom Birchall running a 600cc Honda unit as opposed to the favoured Yamaha. And well, given their results this season, you can't disprove that it's working for them. Took 2 victories at the start of the year, have a total of 4 to their name so far this season, albeit running through a bit of a rough patch in the aftermath of their incident at the Red Bull Ring and the injury to Tom Birchall. A brilliant stand-in display at Assen a couple of months ago, though, for Callum Crowe, who filled in for Tom Birchall. Tom is now back in the passenger seat. Seat being a great overstatement. But he is back and still nursing his shoulder injury, but he's worked extremely hard to get back. As you can see, there is no room for relaxation today. The marshal with the flag at the front of the grid is striking the body language of a hurried man, and that's because eventually the daylight, eventually the curfew will cause issues here. The 1 minute board is given. We want to get the full 12 laps of this race underway, and we can't do that if we hang around. It will be Kershaw and Charlwood on pole position for this race. 3rd in the championship, with 4th and 5th place just a point back from them. A win today would mean quite a lot, and if Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement can take a podium with the Birchalls down in 6th place off the line, if they can remain ahead of the Birchalls, then that will be a big story. Your grid for this race: Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood, your pole sitter, Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement alongside on the front row of the grid. Sam and Tom Christie are 3rd place. 4th place, Kevin Rousseau and Harry Payne. Fifth place, Benny Stroyer and Kevin Kulsch. Fifth place for them. Ben and Tom Birchall, sixth place. Tim Reeves and Mark Wiltz on the 77 in seventh. Ted and Vincent Peugeot in eighth place. Pekka Pavarinta and Ilse de Haas in ninth. Lennart Gertlich and Uwe Neubert rounding out your top 10 on the 42. Rupert Archer and Adam Christie in 11th on the 70. No Holden and Sager, understandably. Peter Kemsvinger and Andrzej Sedlacek in 13th. They'll also be alone on row 7, with Zimmerman and Mal not taking the start. Eero Palm and Lauri Lipstock on the 8th row, alongside Marcus Schwegler and Andrzej Kopecky. Claude Vinet and Valentin Pirat on row 9, although they're joined by Kevin Cable and Charlie Richardson. Pierre Login and Christophe Duras joined by Roger Vickers and Remco Moos on the final row. And so, as the evening is firmly upon us here at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, the 12-lap Superside sprint race is upon us. This will be short, sharp, hard and fast action. Will it be Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood that replicate their brilliant start earlier on? They led comfortably into the first corner prior to the red flag earlier on today. The green flag now waves at the back of the grid, and we are racing. That red light was barely on at all. They mean business. We go racing. And it was Kershaw and Charlwood again with a good start. But look at Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement. Ellis is a famous late breaker, but can't quite move to the inside. It is Kershaw and Charlwood in the lead. Critically, Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau have done much better this time. They're up to third on the grid. In fourth place once again, I believe that's the Birchalls, who have once more got a brilliant start. Yes, it is the Birchalls in fourth place. Then it's the Christies in fifth. Stroyer and Kulsch, I believe, still there in sixth position, but it is Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood, your leaders from pole. Everyone making their way through the triple. You see the wheels lifting on the left-hand side there. Very difficult to avoid that unless you've got a very firmly sprung machine. Everyone down the back straight for the first time of asking. Kershaw and Charlwood with a good 2 or 3 lengths over the second place Ellis and Clement machine. Payne and Rousseau with the Birchalls looming exceedingly large over their shoulders. Oh, and Payne and Rousseau just tried to carry too much speed there through turn 13. Harry Payne just asked a bit too much there of the front tyre. Sure, tyre's not all the way up to temperature either, and that's dropped them down to 9th place. That's hugely unfortunate for Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau into turn 13. Always looked like they were drifting wide, unfortunately. I think that is just cold tyres, cold brakes, maybe a little bit of ambition trying to hold on to that top 2. Unfortunately, down to 9th place has gone Harrison Payne and Kevin Rousseau, and that's big for our race-leading outfit and Sam and Tom Christie, both of whom are fighting hard with the 45 for third in the FIM Sidecar World Championship. Ted and Vincent Peugeot cross the line in 7th place at the end of this first lap of racing. As it stands, I believe that would be enough for them to secure the FIM sidecar, the IDM sidecar, the German championship in this race, with one race to spare on Sunday. They come in as heavy favourites, and if they have a lead in excess of 25 points at the end of today, Peugeot and Peugeot will be the German champions, the interlopers from across the French border. Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood will lead the way at the conclusion of lap number 2, but Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement have not given them an inch so far. We know that Todd Ellis can wait behind somebody. He's got all the patience in the world. And if his path to victory involves just staying calm, keeping the tyres underneath them and making a push late in the race, and that's exactly what they will do. We are now on to lap 3 of this race. Confirmation from race control that nobody had a jump start, so that's great news. The likes of Ben and Tom Birchall, who really did fly out of the blocks, that's great news. That was a very spirited start from the Birchalls, who've now moved up to 3rd place. So they've gotten past, well, of course they would be in 3rd place after the moment for Payne and Rousseau. Sam and Tom Christie behind them in 4th, of course. The Birchalls, the next target is, of course, their main title rival. I'm sure that Ben and Tom are going to be pressing on here to try and just maybe get involved in that lead battle. Any points gained over Ellis and Clement this weekend at Oschersleben would be warmly received heading into the season finale at Estoril on the last weekend of October. It'll be a trip down to southern Europe through Iberia to Estoril for all of these crews. Of course, anyone who comes in with a championship lead into the season finale inherently has a bit of a momentum advantage. Move there from the 44. That was Pavarinta with a huge straight line speed run by the looks of it there. So that's Pavarinta up into 7th place. Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau are in 8th. Ted and Vincent Peugeot, though, they appear to be dropping a bit. They've dropped down to 9th position. In fact, I think they may be in 10th place now on the 74. Drifting wide there. Pavarinta and De Haas just losing the apex there at Schlossgold turn 3. And that gives Payne and Rousseau 7th position. So slowly moving their way back up, Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau, but this is not the run they will have wanted. There we are, Payne and Rousseau. Pavarinta and De Haas still there in 8th place. Ted and Vincent Peugeot in 9th. And then it's the 21 of Stroyer and Kulsch. Stroyer and Kulsch, who started the lap in 6th, are now down in 10th, so they seem to be struggling a little bit as well. Their first sector way off the pace. .35.2, everybody else in the top dozen in the 34s or indeed the 33s through the first sector. And Stroyer and Kulsch also slow in the second split as well. I think they're dealing with a wounded machine, unfortunately. Look at this, though. The battle for the lead. Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement shadowing Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood right now. The shadows are indeed getting longer. Here at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben. Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement will be looking to get another 25 points on the board. They've had a brilliant year so far. They started off fairly quietly, actually, it must be said, at the Sachsenring last time we set foot in Germany. A 3rd and a 4th place, but since then they have taken 5 wins, 3 of which coming in the last 3 races. They'd like to continue that streak. 100 points from 100 in 4 races is certainly nothing to shake a stick at. However, second place will do them just fine as well. 95 from 100 across 4 races will be fine. However, I don't think Todd Ellis nor Emmanuel Clement think in those terms. We begin lap 6 of the race this time by. The gap is still under a second, although it's gone out to 7/10 this time. Kershaw and Charlwood with a 1:32.174. That's the best lap we've seen so far in this race. So Kershaw and Charlwood stepping it up a little bit here. I'm sure Ben and Tom Birchall want to see those two start scrapping so they can close in. However, Sam and Tom Christie have not let go of the back of that number 16 at any point. Unsurprisingly, given their pace slowing up, Benny Stroyer and Kevin Kolsch have ended up in the pit lane. I was rather anticipating that after their slow sector splits. It's a shame for one of the Bonovo Action-backed entries. See what the gap is this time at the front of the pack. It was just under 0.8 of a second last time. We will see the interval this time by. Let's see. It's out again, 1.1 seconds. Between Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood on the Kershaw Racing entry. And then Ellis and Clement in second place. Ben and Tom Birchall 4.3 off the lead as we get a replay here. Oh, goodness me. In slow motion, that chicane is all the more wild. The curb at turn 9 is used and abused, particularly in car racing, and I think that's created almost something of an artificial ditch there at turn 9 over the years. On a sidecar, that creates the phenomenon you just saw. The left side wheel lifted in no uncertain terms. Let's see how the Birchalls and the Christies tackle it. Yep, they do the same thing. It drops away the curb, but you've got to commit to it. Must be a little bit hairy, especially as the contact patch rejoins terra firma. The wheel having maybe slightly slowed since it last made contact with the earth. Obviously, if you slow down one wheel, if it rejoins the ground, it can spear you off. It's lap 8 of the race, and right now, Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood are setting an unassailable pace, a 1:32.4 last time, a second quicker than what we're seeing out of Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement. Well, 8.5 tenths, but it's still quite a lot, and unless Ellis and Clement are just waiting and trying to keep their tyres fresh for a late run, which is possible, something tells me that Kershaw and Charlwood have the advantage here. They've matched the best lap of Ellis and Clement on that last time by. In fact, they've exceeded the best lap of Ellis and Clement on that last time by, and we know, since they have a 32.1 as their very best lap of the race, we know that Kershaw and Charlwood have more speed in the back pocket should they need to use it. Kershaw and Charlwood are well on their way here, as long as they keep this tidy. Let's see what the lap time is, though, for both parties this time. Ellis and Clement dropped another 3.5 tenths in the second sector alone. They're about even in sector 1. Blue flags out on circuit as the lap traffic makes way. I believe that's the duo of Vickers and Moos, the Dutch duo joining us for the first time this weekend. The first time this season, at least. Ooh, Ellis and Clement getting squeezed out there. Well, that's hugely unfortunate. That will have cost them another second or two. I'm sure they'd have been hoping that the lap traffic would have aided them. But instead, it's very much gone against them. Now, what about the battle for third place and the battle for fifth? Can they both get through the lap traffic without an issue? Ben and Tom Birchall will be approaching that back marker now, and I'd really like to see whether they get through without drama, because that third and fourth place scrap is exceedingly close. Sam and Tom Christie just behind the Birchells, the brotherly battle for third place. Tim Reeves and Mark Wilkes in fifth are also having a good dice with Payne and Rousseau, and they're all coming up on that back marker at the moment. There's Darras in the number 9, another back marker that the leaders will catch shortly, but my question really is in regard to the third and fourth place scrap and whether they've remained in the same order. We'll see them in the not too distant future. Birchall's still there in third place, so yes, they've managed to get through without a position swap, but look at the Christies. The Christies were right there with the Birchells, and I wouldn't mind betting that the Christies fancy a move into the first corner. I don't know whether we're going to catch it, but if they continued with that momentum down the main straight, then surely the Christies would have had a good chance of moving through. The leader got past Vinay and Pirat fairly simply. Birchall's still there in the lead, and I think Sam and Tom Christie got through into third place. I think that did happen because they were 6/10 quicker through the first sector split and only 2/10 off. Yep, they are indeed into third place, so there you go. Sam and Tom Christie have made the move for third place. That must have been down into turn 1. We saw them having a good run down the main straight. Some more back markers now for them to contend with, and again the Birchells I think are getting stifled a little bit there. Tim Reeves still in 5th place with Mark Wilkes, and Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau trying to stay on their back for 5th place. The Birchells have really had the short straw of the lap traffic there. They lost another second or two behind, I believe, was the number 9. In fact, no, it was Darras and Lujan, wasn't it? 25. And Payne gets through into 5th place. Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau through into 5th. Tim Reeves and Mark Wilkes, flames spitting from the side of their machine under braking, and unfortunately Reeves down to 6th place. And I tell you what, Payne and Rousseau with 2 laps left to run. This is lap 11 of 12. Ben Birchall and Tom Birchall are only, well, maybe a second and a half away at this stage. Maybe if Payne and Rousseau put on a good lap here, they could get themselves up to the rear of Ben and Tom. It's certainly possible, isn't it, looking at that interval? If Payne and Rousseau have the confidence and have the machine underneath them, then the Birchells could be dropped further. They've already dropped out of 3rd position, of course. If things were to finish exactly as they are, Ellis and Clement would take another 7 points over the Birchells. 20 points for a 2nd place finish, 13 for 4th. Ergo, the points advantage going into Sunday would be 16 points. And that would be a huge swing in the championship in favour of Ellis and Clement, the defending title holders. We're on the final lap of the race though, and the outfit that sits 3rd in the championship is less than a lap away from an initial victory. Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood. Could finally get their first win of the season on the board. They've had a couple of 2nd places, as we've alluded to. The Birchells and Payne and Rousseau are very close together. The gap is down to about 3 seconds in the battle for 4th. The 16 and the 45 are at very close quarters. Ben and Tom Birchall could lose another position before the end of this race. There's 2nd, there's 3rd, and if we hold this shot, we'll just get a look at 4th place. There they are. We got a little look at them there. But we must see the winners across the line, of course. Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood. Just a couple of corners away from claiming a victory and finally solidifying something of a points lead in the battle for third in the title. It's Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood that take victory. Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement claim second place. Third place to the Christies, who will be in fourth place. I believe it has been a switch. Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau move up into fourth position. Ben and Tom Birchall demoted to fifth place by the end of the race. And so with that, that means that they will get just 11 points on the board. Yeah, 11 points to the 20 of Ellis and Clement. So the points lead for Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement, who finished second, will double. It was 9 points coming into this race, and provisionally at least, it's going to have gone to 18. That is a huge swing in the championship once again in favour of Ellis and Clement, as all of the recent swings have been. A reminder that there are 50 points available at Estoril, so come what may, the championship will not be decided until they arrive in Portugal. However, Ellis and Clement once again in fine form. Ben and Tom Birchall down in fifth place, and of course, as we know, as we've said, and as we well appreciate, Ben and Tom Birchall still bearing the scars from Red Bull Ring where they had their big incident. I'm sure Tom Birchall still feels his shoulder injury in particular. Sam and Tom Christie will be delighted with that third place as well. That puts them just ahead of Payne and Rousseau in the championship as well. Sam and Tom Christie will now be fourth in the championship hunt. But it's a win for Kershaw and Charlwood here at the Sachsenring. The Sachsenring, I'm sorry. At Oschersleben, the other German part of the season, which my apologies for that. We are, of course, at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben. And there are the results. Kershaw and Charlwood by 4.3 seconds, your winners. Ellis and Clement cruise home to second place. The Christies late in the race managing to inherit third place. And on the very last lap, Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau beat the Birchalls to fourth place. Fifth only for the Birchalls, but they still made up a position on their sixth place qualifying position. Reeves and Wilkes took sixth place. Pavarinter and De Haas in seventh. The Peugeots take eighth place, and with that, I believe, comes the IDM Sidecar Championship title as well. So Ted and Vincent Peugeot will be the champions, by my reckoning, in the German Championship. Gertlich and Neubert rounding out the top 10, or rounding out the top 9, I should say. Archer and Christie in 10th place. Palm and Lipstock in 11th, and rounding out the top dozen, Kimswenger and Sedlacek on the 11. 13th for Cable and Richardson, Schwegler and Kopecky in 14th, Vinay and Perrat on the 9 in 15th, Lujan and Duras and Vickers and Moos round out the 17 that didn't visit the pits. We did get a finish for Stroyer and Kolsch, but they were unfortunately down in the pit lane for much of the race with an issue. We can now take a look back at some highlights of the race that was. So in the early stages of the race, a much brighter part of the day, the race got started. However, there was a red flag earlier on. We had to wait well over an hour for the race to begin. And when it did begin, it was Kershaw and Charlwood again with a brilliant launch off the line to take an early lead. The Birchells also with a great start. They managed to run up to 4th place in the early going. Payne and Rousseau, they were 3rd early on. But unfortunately, their error dropped them down to 9th. They would, however, work their way back up the order. Bit of a hip check there for one of the back markers as the Birchells picked their way through. A couple of back markers causing delays to a few of those at the sharp end of the order, but such is the narrow nature of this Oschersleben circuit. No dramas, though, for Kershaw and Charlwood. A fairly straightforward run to victory, it must be said. For the first-time race winners this season, they finally get a win in the books in 2023 in the World Championship. Kershaw and Charlwood will be to the top step of the podium here today. And they will get the opportunity to take in some champagne and have a good evening before hopping back on the machine on Sunday. Sunday's race, of course, will be a longer length as well. So tyre preservation will be a keener subject among the riders, especially those at the controls, the drivers, the ones with the throttle in their direct control will be urged to keep those tyres as cool as possible. A lot of acceleration zones here at this circuit, lots of opportunities to spin up the tyres if you're not too careful. The fans are leaving at the conclusion of a very good day at the Bonovo Action Sidecar Festival. We had to make them wait a little bit for the FIM Sidecar World Championship, but they got to see a great victory for Kershaw and Charlwood, who will be lapping in the plaudits. Ellis and Clement just 4.3 seconds back, and much of that came towards the end of the race. It just seemed as though after the lap traffic slightly spooked Ellis and Clement at turn 2, I think from there they just realised that second was the best they were going to get. They knew they had an advantage over the Christies in 3rd place and just cruised it home. Of course, it was the Birchells in 3rd place at the time, but the Birchells dropping down to 5th place. Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau, I would say, quietly had the best race of anybody from the end of lap 1 onwards. They were the 2nd fastest outfit on circuit, just a few hundredths off the pace of Kershaw and Charlwood. Of course, that error on the first lap after the restart from from Harry Payne hindered them. Went from 3rd place to 9th, and a return all the way up to 4th position is a jolly good job from the 45 Steinhausen outfit. I don't know if they'll be happy with that, given how they ended up down in 9th, but they should be mightily impressed with themselves, because that was a very good recovery job. I'm sure that the party awning for the evening is going to be the Peugeots. Ted and Vincent Peugeot will have secured the German championship, at least provisionally. The IDM Sidecar champions for 2023 on a provisional basis. Of course, in the in the FIM Sidecar World Championship, while there are yet no champions decided, it's been another big swing in favour of last year's champions, the reigning and defending champions, Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement. Who will now have an 18-point lead by my provisional maths, and it's provisional not just because the final race results haven't been published, but also because it's my maths. But I make it 18 points between them. Birchall's could really do without scoring Ellis and Clement tomorrow, but they're on a rich vein of form at the moment, where the Birchalls are still recovering from their incident at the Red Bull Ring. I think Ben and Tom will come into Sunday's race motivated, and hopefully Ben and Tom can challenge in that race. They will have to start from 6th on the grid again, of course, because the grids are effectively reset. But as you can see, we really did race to the end of the light. It's already looking more evening. If we're not careful, the podium, which we're waiting for, will happen in the dark. They might have to get the high visors out to make sure we can see them on the podium. Kershaw and Charlwood have taken that 2nd step. They've taken the 3rd step, and finally this year they get a victory on the board. And again, coming into this weekend with a points deficit of 64 between themselves and the Birchalls, any movement beyond 3rd in the championship is at best unlikely. It'll be somewhere around 50 points between themselves and 2nd place now. So while it is at best unlikely that they make any further moves, of course, with 1 point covering 3rd, 4th and 5th in the championship coming into today, outscoring the Christies, outscoring Payne and Rousseau were the main objectives, and they've absolutely smashed that objective out of the park. 9 points clear, or 9 points more scored in that race from the Christies, which now gives them a 10-point buffer in the championship. It sounds like the podium is about to get underway.
Auf dem 3. Platz mit der Startnummer 34 das Team Sam und Tom Christie.
There you go, Sam and Tom Christie being announced onto the podium. We can hear that in the background. So Sam and Tom Christie taking the 3rd step.
Das Team mit der Startnummer 6. Todd Ellis und Emmanuel Clement.
Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement being welcomed onto the podium secondly.
So, Glückwunsch
and the next team welcomed up will be your winners.
Stefan Kershaw and Ryan
Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood take to the top step. We will do all of this again on Sunday here at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben. Make sure you join us for more racing action on the Sunday as we go to national anthems. We thank you for staying with us today and seeing the Superside Sprint on this Saturday in the FIM Sidecar World Championship. Here is your winning national anthem.
So, meine Damen und Herren, jetzt gibt es erst einmal die Pokale. Wir beginnen mit dem Drittplatzierten und